Welcome back, everybody. So in this video we're going to talk about filter, search, and lookup functions. Now, this being said, I am going to preface this by saying delegation is something you absolutely need to be aware of before you even consider using any of these functions. If you look up the documentation for this, let me go ahead and launch this. As a matter of fact, I don't think I updated the documentation, but let's do Power FX functions. And we are on filter. There we go. Grab this. Come back over to here. On select. Make sure we get this updated for you. All right, so with this being said, now that we have the links updated, down here there is a complete area talking about delegation. There's also an entire area understanding delegation. I highly suggest you read all of this before you use any of these functions. We're going to show you Dataverse because this is the most forgiving. But if you are using SharePoint because you don't have a Power Apps premium license, you better really learn delegation. Otherwise, you're going to drive yourself mad. Long story short, without going into a full delegation video, Power Apps can only handle so many records in memory. And so one of the things that you can deal down here is the data row limit. It defaults at 500, it maxes out at 2000, and so what delegation allows you to do is perform these types of functions. But what it does when delegation works, it literally does this. It delegates it to the back-end database. The database, if you know anything about Transact SQL and SQL Server or SQL ANSI 92, which is just standard generic SQL, you'll know that you can run these functions in, say, for example, Transact SQL. Or if you're in MySQL, you have certain functions that you can use natively in that database or RDBMS language. And so what it does is it takes these Power Apps commands and delegates it, passes it through so that the database can do what it needs to do using its native language. So if you are not sure, make sure you check the documentation, make sure you check the data sources, and if you get a triangle, which basically means, hey, we can't delegate this, that means Power Apps has to deal with this in memory, and it's never going to end well for you. Delegation is the bane of existence on the Power Platform. It is something that unfortunately is the way that it is. And workarounds would potentially include using Power Automate and or APIs to circumvent any of these types of issues that you've got going on. So if you're brand new starting out, I would highly suggest using SQL or using Dataverse because that will be the most flexible, allowing you to do these types of queries. All right, I've beaten this horse to death. I've talked way too much about delegation. Let's just get on to some simple filtering. So I have examples in here that is really going to stress delegation. First of all, I'm using an in, where in type of clause, and I'm using the filter. So what am I doing here? I'm creating a collection. And by the way, let me just start by saying I have a gallery that is based on this V contacts, V for variable. In this case, I probably should have used C for collection. And what I'm doing is I'm building these collections with each of these buttons. So there's a one-to-one pairing the way I've wired these up. So this text box works with this button. This text box works with this button, so on and so forth. Just to illustrate this, I could have made really complicated PowerFX code, but tried to keep it simple just so that you can at least grasp the ideas and concept rather than trying to have one button and have all of these work depending on what's going on. So to work with the filter, I'm simply building out a collection called vContacts, and I'm running the filter command on the table that is going to be the collection. And I'm saying for the table contacts, what I want you to do is look in this control, meaning this control. So whatever the user types into this control, I want you to find that text in the email column. Okay, so let me go ahead and play this. And we see right now that we have a bunch of .coms in here. We have a CN, a gov. So one of the things I can do is search for gov, G-O-V, and hit filter email. Now I have all of the emails and all of the contacts that have gov in the email. So as you scroll through, you can see all of that. And this was accomplished because I used this filter command, but I also used a bane of your soon-to-be existence if you're not using Dataverse or SQL, this in operator, because in is usually not delegable or friendly to be delegable in other areas. You can use starts with, ends with, that kind of stuff, which we have covered already. But nonetheless, this type of context of what you're seeing here in the example, just know that these commands typically don't work well outside of SQL and Dataverse. So the next one here is going to be search full name. And in the full name, what I'm doing is the same thing. I'm building a new collection. I'm clearing and collecting into this virtual table. And I'm searching this control here for the full name. So anything in the full name, I'm basically just trying to find. It doesn't have to be whole. So for example, I have my name in here. I'm going to use Sodin, S-O-D, and it should be able to find me in here. So Sodin's in there, right? So that was very easy to find. And then the next and final one is going to be LookUp, full name, and now we're back to this in thing again, where I'm using LookUp. I'm specifying what I'm looking up in. I'm talking about this particular control. And I'm saying whatever I type into this box, I want you to search for that, or look it up rather, in the full name column. So once again, I could do, let's reset this, control reset. By the way, reset, I'm just simply clear collecting and not putting anything in there, just getting the full list. Also, application on start, I'm clearing anything that might be in there, and I'm also setting it up with just blank. So just let you know how this demo file is set up. And anyway, back to this, let me play this again. Let's do fish. Let's try fish this time. Okay, so look up full name, and there's starfish and fish. Okay, also working at government in China. So anyway, that is the search, the filter, and the lookup functions in the most simplistic form, and wanted to give you a real working, simple use case example so that you can build more complex PowerFX commands off of this. Additionally, please make sure you read through all of the delegation stuff. It will save you hours of hair pulling, and it will help you talk to those that you work with to help guide them along the proper choice of licensing as well as database options. Nothing worse than getting started on a project. You misscope the project, you're pulling your hair out, and functionality that they want to do is only available because you can do a certain query where you're using in, and in order to do that, it has to be delegable, but you've chosen the wrong data source. You see where I'm going with this? This gets really ugly really quick. So again, study that delegation. All right, guys, that's it for this video. We'll talk to you in the next one. Bye-bye.